Hello everyone, this is Miss Katrina with another thrilling Science Experiments Thursday. So we are in class 2, which is Explore Properties of Matter, or Experiment with Chemistry. So, first things first, don't forget to like video, comment, so we know that it's you who have seen this, and don't forget to subscribe so that we know so that you can know that we have new videos out. So first things first, you're going to get out your class 2 kits. So the first thing you're going to get is the white box that says class 2. And those should have a bunch of different things. We have crystals, snow, chalk, magic sand, baking soda, vinegar, cornstarch, etc. And you're also going to get out your bag that says class 2. And don't forget to get out your journal so you can write down any observations or questions that you have while we do this video. So, first things first, we're going to talk about safety. Handle the supplies carefully. I want you to not touch your eyes, your mouth, your nose, ears, anything when you do these, okay? And wash your hands before we start this and wash them after. Please try not to touch these things. In your class 2 bag, you will have spoons. I want you to use a spoon to move these when I say. Alright, so first things first, I want you to get out your cup. And I want you to fill it about halfway full of water. And I want you to get out a plate. Alright, next I want you to get out your vinegar from that box. It will say vinegar on the top. It is taped down carefully. Take off the tape. You don't want to do it too fast or else it will get everywhere, and you don't want that. So I want you to look at your water and look at your vinegar. I want you to write down in your notebook what similarities these have, what differences, does one smell different? Write those all into your notebook. Alright, next I'm going to have you get out your cornstarch, baking soda, and your chalk. And I want you to get your cup of water and your cup of vinegar, and you're going to get out 2 pipettes. These are pipettes. And how you use them is, this is the bulb, and you squeeze. Once you're in, I'll show you in the water. You squeeze it, and it blows little bubbles in it, and then you release, and it fills with water. And how you release it, get the water out, is you squeeze the bulb again, and out comes the water. Alright, so what I want you to do is I want you to get the chalk out, put that in one piece of your plate. Mine likes to roll. And your baking soda, I want you to carefully open that up and put that in one piece of your plate. If they're kind of chunked, you can just use your cup to break it down a bit. And I would keep the lid next to where you put that so that you will know that's the baking soda. Do the same with the cornstarch. Put the lid near it so you know that this is the cornstarch. And don't put them on top of each other. I want them to be separate. You don't want these to mix. Alright, so what we're going to be doing is we are going to be observing chemical reactions. So, I want you to first get your pipette in the water, fill it up, and put it in one of these items. So I'm going to put it in the baking soda first. I want you to observe what happens when you do this. Put a couple drops in there. So when I put some water in the baking soda, it just got wet and clumpy. So we're going to try vinegar. Put a couple drops in the cornstarch. I want you to observe what happens. I want you to do this with me. Pause the video if you need to. Just a couple drops. If you look, you'll see that the vinegar droplets on the cornstarch just roll off. When it did in the water, it soaked through. And I want you to try this as well with the chalk. Put a couple pieces on one side of the chalk with vinegar. And a couple of water on the other side. Alright, now we put the water and the baking soda, and we put the vinegar and the cornstarch. Add a little bit more to each side just to see what happens. Right, and now I want you to switch it up. I want you to put the vinegar in the opposite. So I put it in the cornstarch. I'm going to put it in the baking soda now. Now I'm going to put a little bit more. So when I put the vinegar in the baking soda, chemical reaction. Now I'm going to try the water in the cornstarch. Different reaction. And then we'll try it with your piece of chalk as well. Putting more water on the side of the chalk. And putting more vinegar this side of the chalk. Was there any differences you see? What reactions are different? What reactions are kind of the same? I want you to write this down in your notebook, and you can kind of play around with this. Don't mix the pipettes. So if you're using this pipette for water, don't put it in the vinegar, and the same for the vinegar. Don't put it in the water because you don't want that. Alright, so I have been kind of having fun with this along with my sister, but we've just been putting a lot of vinegar into the baking soda, which does this. And now that there's enough vinegar, you can see this reaction with the chalk. It is bubbling. So, which when it was just in water, it just kind of soaked through, but when you put vinegar, it does the sizzling chemical reaction. And if you want, we have these spoons, and you can kind of mess around with it. Check out the cornstarch, what it does. And if you feel the cornstarch after it's wet, it becomes pretty hard actually. Let's put in enough vinegar. Let's see if it does anything. It's getting pretty hard. So just have fun with this. And you can pause the video, just have fun with this. When you're done with this, what I want you to do not pour any of this into the sink. Let me emphasize that. Do not pour this into the sink. This does not go into the sink. This goes into the trash. Right? You do not want to do bad things to your sink drain. So, please remember that. Alright, so be sure not to use all of your vinegar. If you can, only use a little bit of it. You will be using that later for another class or another activity that we'll be doing. So be sure to seal it up with your lid and make sure it's nice and tight. Also be sure, keep your water cups and your pipettes. It's pretty easy to clean them out. With the vinegar one, you can just flush it in water. Just get water in, get water out, get water in, move it so it goes down, splash it out. Alright, so let's talk a little about what happened. So, matter comes in three main stages: solid, liquid, and gas. When something is in a solid state, its molecules, which are tiny particles, are tightly packed together. In a liquid state, the molecules are less tightly packed, and in a gas state, the molecules are much more spread out. Some things can change their state of matter right in front of you. Water is a good example. So you usually see it as a liquid, but if you freeze water, it becomes a solid, which is ice. When you boil it, it becomes a gas, steam, like when you're cooking like macaroni and cheese and you have to boil water before you put the noodles in. That steam that you come from is the water evaporating and becoming steam. So there are two types of changes in chemistry, physical and chemical. A physical change is when something changes its physical form but stays the same at a chemical level. For example, if you tear a piece of paper, it's going to be in pieces, but it's still paper. Instead of a whole piece, it's just pieces. But it doesn't change the fact that it's paper. The same goes from boiling or freezing water. A chemical change, also called a chemical reaction, is when something new is created and the change can't be undone. The materials you end up with are chemically different from what you started out with. For example, when you bake cookies, there are a bunch of chemical reactions for your ingredients. Gases form, sugars caramelize, and proteins change shape. The cookies that come out of the oven are chemically different from the dough that went in. Other examples of chemical reaction include setting off fireworks and burning gas as fuel. Both release lots of energy. Vinegar is an acid when mixed with components called carbonates, like baking soda, baking powder, and types of chalk that contain an ingredient called calcium carbonate. It causes a chemical reaction that releases carbon dioxide. A chemical reaction happens when you combine two or more and they change into something new. The bubbling and fizzing is a sign that a chemical reaction has occurred. Alright, so we are on to our next activity, which is snow day and magic sandbox. So the things you're going to need are your water, a pipette, your lab notebooks, pen or pencil. You're going to need your instant snow, your magic sand, the plate, not the same plate. You were given 2 plates, so use the other plate. You're going to need your crystals and a spoon. Alright, so now I'm going to have you open all these. Ooh, careful. This one is the magic sand. This one is the snow. And this one, the crystals. I want you to look at these and write in your notebook any similarities, differences, anything you observe from these. Alright, so now that you've looked at these, I want you to take out the sand, take out the snow, and we're going to have these crystals out here. So now I want you to get out your water and a pipette. And before you do anything, write down in your notebook what you think is going to happen when you add water to the crystals. So pause this video, write down what you think, and then unpause. Alright, so what you're going to do, you have the water. I want you to just put a couple drops into it. Notice if anything happens. And write down what you see. Right now, I don't see anything happening, so I am going to pour some more in. And can keep doing this and keep guessing what you think is going to happen. Alright, so what I'm noticing is that the crystals are growing. Alright, so I'm going to put a little bit more water and I'm going to show you up close. My crystals have grown and it may not look like much has happened to them, but I want you to use your hand and touch it.